Hello and welcome to Transformation Now. Hi, I'm Rita, rocker, speaker, author, trainer with SoaringHigher.rocks. And I would like to continue on today with my program called Journey to Achieve Your Purpose. And like I mentioned before, we all have a purpose. We all have a calling in our lives. And it's that thing that's inside of us, maybe since we were little or in high school, whatever the time may be, and it won't leave us. We have a purpose and it won't leave us, because a lot of times it has to do with also working with other people, you know, as well as the things that we want to be successful in. And I talked about that the last program, but also what can we do in this world, because we all have a purpose, we have a plan, and to really talk to God about it, because I do, and I know that's important to have a plan in our lives to get there. And life can get in the way, it can cause all kinds of problems. But if that purpose never leaves you and it's still in your heart, that's your purpose. And it could be any kind of career. It could be anything that you're doing in your life. It could be wanting to go over to jungles overseas and help people with medicine. It could be working with people who are disabled. It could be working with, like I mentioned last time, being an architect, where you're building big designs or small designs that are what people want. And so, you know, think of those things as you go through, and what is your heart's desire? Because it's not going to leave you. You know, 40 years later, it's still there. It might have sneaked back in the back of your brain and your subconscious. It's still there. And when you think about it, or you see somebody doing that kind of work, maybe that you've always wanted to do, it's going to rile up in you. And you're going to find out that that desire is still there. So again, it's a lot about energy, vibration, what we're thinking, getting out of maybe a situation that we're in to move forward. And so we will design it, first of all, like I mentioned with the architect last time, with images. What are the images we have in our mind? Do you want to be on stage? Do you want to be out in a baseball field? Do you want to be working in a hospital? Do you want to be doing something in a mountain town, creating, having fun things? There's so many things, but there's something specifically for you. So get in your mind the images, and I'll talk about that more in a minute, and visualize that people that I'm seeing are the most successful millionaires, billionaires, whatever, have all been doing that, where they literally are visualizing and they make their vision boards. And I thought, oh yeah, right. But if it's laser focus on those, that's all they start thinking about. That's why they start going that direction, because that's what's in their mind. They're not attracted to the same things that they used to be attracted to. You know, those could be repulsive, or it could be like, no, I don't want to do that. No, that's not where I am. That's not what I'm thinking about. That's not what I want. And so we visualize, and then the words that we speak. Again, it has to be powerful words that we speak and we accept. And so I mentioned last time just about this very well-known lady who's more motivational, I guess, inspirational person, and how she was always putting herself down as like a failure, and she did this wrong or that wrong, until she finally started realizing that people were high-fiving each other. She watched them do that. Hey, good job, great job. Yeah, go on. And so then she started doing that in the mirror, morning and night. She smiled at herself in the mirror, no matter what she felt like, no matter what she thought she looked like. She would smile, do the high five, and go, hey, great job, to herself. And she said she could not believe the transformation in her life because she high-fived herself in the mirror. And so this, you know, information comes from my newest book, Miracle in Your Mirror, Pursuing Your Passion at Any Age. And high-five yourself, because you are miracle in your mirror. We all are. So those words that we speak, we're going to hear those. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, in my opinion. But you're going to believe what you hear yourself saying. And so what are you saying to yourself? What do you want to believe about yourself? And you maybe go, well, I don't deserve anything. I'm not worthy. I've fought with that all my life. No, you stop right when you think those things, and I am worthy. I'm a beautiful child of God. I have his brains. I do that a lot. I've got his mind. And so think about those things and realize what you're saying is what you're going to get. And we have to stop that. And it could be bugging you all day long. So just fight back all day long until it's no longer that big fight like it was. And that especially means, what are you going to accept and what will you not accept? there's a lot of things that I've come to go, no, I'm not going to accept that. I don't deserve that. Where I always felt unworthy, it's like, no, I don't accept those things. Once you do that, you start putting some barriers, some boundaries up. You're going to be amazed. High five yourself and see how your life starts changing. You start attracting people to you that are caring, that could be fun, that could be intelligent. I've really worked a lot lately. I don't want to hear a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm always there for somebody who hurts. But I'm not there anymore for just drivel, just, empty talk. No, I push that away. I'm watching more programs and then talking to more people who really want to have intelligent conversations and continue learning. You can learn so much even on YouTube. So I watch that a lot. I've learned a lot. And so think about that. What do you want to learn? Sometimes I want to sit down and just watch a movie. Once in a while I do, like on Netflix, but so much of the time now, I'm going to learn something, whether it's on health, it could be energy, it could be communication skills, whatever the case may be, on YouTube. And I would encourage you to do that, because then you start really getting more fascinated with the things that are going on. You learn, and you can talk about those things to other people who are maybe on a higher level, and the ones that you want to start hanging around with a lot more. So by what we desire that is good versus what we may currently have in the natural realm. Yes, we're in a natural realm, but there's another realm out there with the energy and the intelligence in God that can lead you and guide you into things that are favorable and beneficial for your life instead. So stop, grab your notebook, and then begin going deep into the mind. And I say grab your notebook and a pen rather than get on your laptop, because when we're on our laptop and something pops up and we think, oh yeah, I've got to answer this and all that. No, that breaks your thought patterns. Get a notebook and a pen, and if you have to do it after everybody's gone to bed or early in the morning or in the bathtub or in your car, in your garage, in your car, if there's a lot of, but think about those things, go deep in thought, and really think about those things that you need to pinpoint in order to go forward into the things that you really want. Now, I've watched a lot of Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi with Mastermind. I can highly recommend them, and the life-changing programs and teaching and just the tips and techniques and everything that they provide for you in steps to go forward. And Dean is always talking about that dot. When you want to change your life, when you want to start helping people, start coaching people, whatever, he says, put the big circle on there, and that could be just something very general. I'll just use sports for an example. Just sports, okay? And then what's next? What do you like? And it goes down to, well, I want to be, you keep going, and then maybe the dot is actually, I want to coach kids and special needs kids. You started out with the sports, and then you get into maybe what team, and then the coaching part and all that. And then you realize, you know what? I've always had a spot in my heart for the Paralympics, for instance, or for kids who have been through a really rough time. Maybe they're like little leaguers, but there's a special group, or you wanted to start a special group because there isn't one for those particular kind of kids. So you've narrowed it down to your dot, what's in your heart, and this is where you go. That's what you start pursuing. You get involved, you become a volunteer for a group maybe. You start watching things online. You start gathering all the information. You start talking to other people about it, and find your dot and pursue that in whatever ways you can. A lot of times people volunteer for things, and as they volunteer, they're busy watching what everybody's doing. And then they say, hey, I'll be on this committee, or I'll be on this team, or yeah, I'll stay late and I'll do this other thing to help you get it completed. That's your dot. That builds you up. I just talked to someone the other day. There's a new restaurant, and I guess it's going to be a very nice restaurant, I think down in the old market. And what it is, though, is it's people who are incarcerated and are on the street. They had a bad life. Cross Training Center is another place working on electronics and cars. But this is going to be a restaurant. And every single person, even if they were maybe a fabulous cook, They have to start from the bottom up, and that could be washing dishes, cleaning, all that kind of thing. And then once they've proven themselves there, so they're in the trenches. They have to go through every step. So maybe they start there, and then they show that they're a hard worker, that they're focused, and maybe then they get to do, I don't know, a little bit of the prep or setting up, getting out of the cleaning and the dishes, but maybe they're like helping set up the restaurant, the dishes, and then they go another step until they can actually be taught how to be a chef, if that's what they want to be. And I thought, isn't that awesome? Because it's giving people who have been down and out and had a rough life a chance, but they have to go through all the trench. My son is in, he's dealing with a lot of stuff right now, but he was in the Marines, and now he's dealing with a lot of other stuff with federal law I won't get into. But, if his guys are in trouble, he goes right out of the trenches. He doesn't have to anymore, but he does. And he said, you know what, I'm going to keep doing this longer than I planned, because my guys need me right now, and I'm going to be there for them. It's a little hard, but that's the kind of attitude we want. I love this new restaurant and the things that they're doing to try to build lives up again. So apparently the people who are doing this, the owners, the creators, that's their dot, to take people whose lives have been really ragged, really tough, very defeated, and turn them into successful chefs, or the cook, whatever the case may be. Or maybe they just want to be like a maitre d', or someone who doesn't really want to cook, but they want to be out in positive energy in a nice place, tell people hello, greet them, that kind of thing. So always think about what you can do. Doesn't have to be really brain surgeon stuff, but just how you can start out, what you can volunteer for, what you can do. So think about that. And I love Dean's concept again about finding your dot, narrowing it down until it exactly hits your heart. So as you mull over all of that, then are you feeling like nothing is happening in your quest? Maybe you've been doing things to improve your life a long time. I know I have, but still feeling stagnant and stuck. A lot of times it's because those negative thoughts are still batting us in the back of the head. There's still somebody in our life who keeps trying to keep us down to their level. They don't want to see us succeed. So, it's like, gee, I've committed to every step and I'm not seeing anything, and I'm so frustrated, I'm just giving up. Well, you think of an old water pump. Some of you aren't familiar with that. But before we had running water in places, there was a water pump or a well, and sometimes they would not be used for a while, and you'd have to pump and pump and pump, and finally it would push the water up. Well, a lot of times that's the way with life too. Like, give it one more pump, one more shot at the water pump, one more shot at what you are trying to achieve for it to kind of finally come to fruition. And I've also heard some, true stories, known some people, it's like, I'm so tired of waiting. I've been praying for a spouse for, whatever years, or I've been praying for something else, a certain job to come about. And it's like, gosh, somebody always gets it, I don't. But then one time, more than once, but a close friend of mine had that experience too, where she was widowed, and her now husband, when she met him, had only been widowed like a month. And so she realized later on why she was waiting is because he was the one she was supposed to be with, but he had things in his life that had to be taken care of, cleared out, etc., before they could get together. So her wait was more waiting for him to meet him, and then to be ready for it. And a lot of times that really happens where there's a person or a thing that isn't quite ready yet. There may be a job at a company and you'd love to do something like this, and you really like this company, but they don't have that kind of job open. And then, now they do, because they need this new kind of production person or whatever it is. So the reason you had to wait and be stalled is because that part, that job, that person, whatever, wasn't quite ready yet. And so be encouraged with that sometimes it's not that you're necessarily doing anything wrong. It's just like the timing is not quite right yet. And so you wait for it. And so, think about that. It does happen a lot. And in the meantime, what are you doing? Are you still preparing? Are you still going forward and learning and being positive and giving yourself a high five as you wait and go through that? So, it's in the mind. Mindset is everything. Whatever's set in our mind is what's going to happen. That's what we're going to do. And so think about constant shifting of thoughts. I'm still doing that all the time in order to not fall back into certain things that aren't positive. They're not part of God's plan or my plan. So what happens when we need a new start or a new journey? Again, this is all about the journey to achieve your purpose. You think of a journey could be something fairly short, a little ways away. I think of the journeys when you watch those old cowboy movies or maybe something from the Middle Ages or whatever. And oh my gosh, the people, the walking, the tough journeys where I watched The Chosen, with the Jesus movies and all of that. And you think of the journey. What would take us an hour took them 3 days because they were walking, where we get in the car and we move. I just saw the movie Cabrini, and it was so incredible. With this mother Cabrini, oh my gosh, I could not believe what especially her and these other people did to transform places, especially with orphans all over the world. The battles she went through, battles and the poverty and it was horrible. It was horrible, but it was powerful because she was not going to let go of what she knew she was called to do. And battle. It was just a life full of battles. She had she basically had drowned, and she kind of came back. And so her lungs were always really bad. So she's no more than 5 feet tall. She's got bad lungs, and she battled the biggest people, the biggest bigwigs in Rome and in New York City, which is where they started her out. And it was a horrible story in so many ways, but it was victory. It was total victory. But again, she had her mindset so much on it, she was not going to back down. She was not going to let anybody bully her, set her place on fire, whatever, nothing. And so I will think of her the rest of my life and what she did to battle forward. I would encourage you actually to see that movie because it's an eye-opener in how we can transform the lives not only of ourselves, battle through, but change the world in some cases. So think about that in the metamorphosis and being the caterpillar. I love the metamorphosis, which is a striking change in appearance, character, or circumstances, usually by supernatural means. And that's always there for us. It's two examples of that. Again, the metamorphosis being a striking change in appearance, character, or circumstances. Well, that's everything. Appearance, your character, all your life circumstances, usually by supernatural means. Okay, The other one is a change of form or nature, or a thing of a person into a completely different one. And I've seen people who have powerful lives and ministries who, like Kim Clement, who is in heaven now, one of the most powerful people, prophetic ministries I've ever seen. Everything is coming to pass as he said. But when God took a hold of him, he was on drugs in the rain in Australia in a gutter. And one of the most powerful people. So we think of all the things and changing a life completely different. So people who have been totally down and out addicts and how now they're powerful people around the world. So that was a metamorphosis. And metamorphosis is not really an easy thing to do. Okay, so are you feeling like a cocoon wanting to burst out of yours again to gain new strength and momentum to try new things and reach your destiny? Well, I know how that feels because of what's all happened in my life. But the transformation of a caterpillar to a butterfly is not easy, okay? But it's beautiful. It's quite amazing because you think, a lot of times we envy the butterflies around us, those people that are flying around and everything's great. They're great. They look great. Their home's great. Their car's great. Everything's great. Okay, and so it's like, oh gosh, here I am. And so think about that though. But the caterpillar's in this confining chrysalis, You know, you've seen that, just the casing of it. And so this poor little thing has to go into a place and fight long and hard to transform into that butterfly, because in that state, it's just a black goo. It's like tar. The caterpillar literally melts down and turns into tarry stuff. And you go, well, how's that ever going to turn into this beautiful butterfly? But in the lining of that chrysalis, the wings, the feelers, everything is in there. Just like everything is in us, even though sometimes we may feel like our lives are melted down to a pile of goo. And so as it works really hard, the goo gets smaller and smaller, the wings and the feelers and the eyes and legs, whatever, start coming out. And it comes out as a beautiful butterfly. And it's strong, and its wings are strong, and it's going forward. It didn't start out that way. It started out as goo. So if you feel like you're kind of a mess right now, a hot mess, that's a term we hear nowadays, know that, think about the butterfly. Everything is in you, just like it was with the butterfly. It just had to go through the process. And I've seen so many times where if somebody goes, oh, this poor little butterfly is struggling to get out of this chrysalis, so I'm going to help it. And when somebody tries to pull that chrysalis off, what happens? The butterfly isn't strong enough to survive, and it dies. It shrivels up and dies. So putting that in human form, sometimes we have to go through those steps where we're building and we're getting stronger and stronger. That might not be fun, but we're building and we're getting stronger. And then we can soar. I love to think about the butterfly, and I do quite often, because sometimes that's what we need to give us a boost to go forward again. And so when we think about that, you fight hard and you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger the more you go through that process. So always think about that, and then think about the energy necessary for what should be, not what is at the present. Again, like I've said before, changing your identity, losing old friends and relationships, getting new ones, and anything that's negative. Like I talked to a couple people lately, and I see that they have to have beer all day long, and I'm thinking that's not doing your body any good, and certainly not helping you get out of the sadness and the rut that you're in. So it's a changing the mindset. So always know that is there for you, just like the butterfly, to go forward and become that majestic creature that God has made us all to be. So it wasn't easy, but it was certainly worth it, and so is ours. So build those magnificent new wings. Another story that was I read, that's in my book, that I read about a month ago, was about the eagle. The life of an eagle can be 40 years or 70 years approximately. And wow, I was just like astounded, because the eagle basically has a life, and they're strong. They're our country's, the eagle. They're very strong. They're very powerful. And they can take up a snake and pull it up into the air where the snake can't attack it, because the snake is like flailing around. It can't do anything, and then just drop it. And sometimes I think we have to do that too with situations. But the eagle, when it hits about 40 years old, its feathers are way too heavy. They're not working right. Its beak is so long and big and bent that it can't really grab its food anymore. It just can't maneuver that. And its talons are too long and too sharp, so it's become a hot mess, really. It's grown to a point, and we think of old age sometimes, but it's grown to a point that it's going to die eventually because it can't function anymore. But the eagle has this little brain, and so it flies off to a mountain, to what's considered a safe place, maybe a little part that goes in that it can kind of hang out at. And for 5 months, this eagle, first of all, it hits its beak really hard against the rocks. I mean, pounds its beak for, I think it's several weeks or something like that. It keeps pounding its beak so hard until it finally breaks off. Then it has to wait for the new beak to grow back so that it can pull its talons out one by one. Ouch. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't imagine the pain that this poor thing goes through. So pull it, and then it has to wait for the talons to grow back so it can pull out all those old feathers that aren't doing any good and they're weighting it down so it's hard to fly. And then it has to wait for all the feathers, new feathers, to come back. Then that eagle, who would have gone away at 40, now can live to be 70 years old. I was just amazed and dumbstruck at how what this eagle went through, but it was worth it. And so when you go through tough times sometimes, I want you to think of that eagle. I mean, I'm just sitting there going, I can't believe this. I mean, wow, that's one of the worst stories I've ever heard of and read. But at the same time, it's very encouraging if you stop and think about, I'm holding on to the process. I'm not letting it go. I'm going to do what I have to do, no matter what the butterfly had to do, no matter what the eagle had to do to be restored, be renewed, be whole. And so you're just revived, you're restored, you're just a whole new vision, whole new life, whole new opportunity to go forward in life and be strong and soar up to that goal that you really want. And so again, it's just not letting life be so daunting, but just surrendering. You know, a lot of times I said, okay, Lord, I just give this up to you and surrender it so he can bring back to you what he wants you to have and work with you. So you work together. That's where your strength comes from. That's where my strength comes from. And so I would encourage you in that and just think about the eagle, go forward, and I look forward to continuing with this program next time.